Ed, so I saw online that Pluto is going retrograde back into the sign of Capricorn, and there was this woman online, Ed, who said that the last time that Pluto was in this particular part of the sky was July 1776, and that was the time that was very significant in American history and therefore in world history, because it was at that time that the the people who were in America, the settlers in America, they got fed up of having to pay taxes to Britain, to the crown, and they always had problems, Ed, with that. They'd had for a long time, but it was in July 1776 that things really boiled over, and that resulted in the creation of the United States of America, which was a very huge deal, Ed, because it was an identity separation from the old guard in in Europe. So that, Ed, was like, at the time, Ed, you could not have understood really the impact of that on the world, on the future to come. And I think that, Ed, is the that sums up, Ed, the kind of deployment and leverage power of represented by the planet Pluto. You know that the fulcrum, Ed, the fulcrum of the, you know what I mean, like the place where the spring where the spring, Ed, in any machine, Ed, is what gives that machine momentum and the power to move forward. And it's that spring, Ed. Pluto is that little lever and that little spring. It's on the outskirts, Ed, of the energy field of our Earth. I won't say the solar system, Ed, because as far as I experience it, and as far as you know, anyone previous to the 1800s, maybe 1700s, experiences it, is the Earth system. So Pluto, Ed, is on the very outside. All the energy, Ed, it goes from the center, goes to the circumference, and then from the circumference it rebounds and comes back. And Pluto is Pluto is that collection, Ed, of force on the circumference of our system, where the rebound happens and the energy comes back in to the center. So it's like that point, Ed, where if you take a person, Ed, our energy flows out from the center of us and it goes to the circumference or the extremity of our energy field, which for a normal human being is maybe 4 or 5 feet away from the person. So that, Ed, is the place where Pluto is, and it's so powerful, even though it's not something that is visible to us very easily because it's on the circumference. But it's so important, Ed, because that's our boundary. That's the boundaries, and that's where, Ed, the energy that we send out rebounds, comes back in towards us. So you can see it, Ed, as a sort of karmic point, because essentially, Ed, everything we do, it goes to our Pluto point and then comes back. So that's really how that's just beginning to say, Ed, how powerful that particular that force is that they call Pluto now, but they've called other names in other times, Ed. And now they say that they say Pluto isn't a planet and all that sort of thing, but who cares? That technically speaking, it's the circumference, and that has been a concept known for a long time, Ed. Has been known forever, really. So Ed, that power center, Ed, that's at the circumference of our Earth system, that has shifted, and not just shifted, but is going retrograde, Ed. And this, Ed, is like this is a mind-blowing concept, Ed, because when any planet goes retrograde, Ed, it means it's sending its effects into our unconscious. And that is a huge deal, Ed, when a force as powerful as Pluto goes into the unconscious, because it means that brings out stuff that at other times is just lying there controlling us, Ed, like in our root system. So imagine, Ed, we have that happening right now, and till the 19th of November. Now, at this Pluto, it has like a 16-year cycle, and I'll tell you why I'm telling you this, why it's important. Because see, Ed, now if you have a planet like Mercury that's circling quite close to our center, we can notice its effects. Everyone knows that how Mercury retrograde affects them. By the time they're in their 50s or 60s, they know what to expect from Mercury retrograde, because it's happened so many years then. Now imagine, Ed, the lifespan of humanity has been artificially restricted. Literally, Ed, artificially restricted to this 70 to 100 years. And in that time, you have just 5 movements of Pluto. So what's happening, Ed, is that the information that a person can get about this planet is restricted, because the humans are all being forced to die, murdered, drained and murdered by 100. And I'll tell you, Ed, why this is so important for the thug world. Because, Ed, Pluto controls that part of us, Ed, that assigns value or worth to anything. Now, a person, Ed, who is, say, 40 or 50 or 60, they develop that knowledge of which foods suit them, which they like, what is valuable to them, and what is not. Now, if someone comes and tells me, there is a place that you can buy. It's in some nice place, and it's a very posh place, and it's in the city, and it's near the CBD, and it's going for very cheap and all that. I won't even be interested in it, because I know what's of value to me, and that is not my lifestyle. I'm not going to be interested in that. Whereas you take another person who actually works in a city center and needs to reach work or whatever, if you tell them that, they will value that place because it means it has worth to them. Now you take that humanity has been killed off at 70 to 100 years, and at that time humanity is just beginning to understand what is of value to them personally. So our personal value system, Ed, is getting eroded, and the thugs, Ed, have introduced a value system on which the entire economy is based, and that value system is gold. Now, Ed, gold is one of the metals. All the metals in our system are precious, all of them. All of them are vital. All of them are required. But gold, Ed, is the one that's the most stable, and the fake human bodies need gold because they themselves have no grounding. So they need that grounding force. For them, Ed, gold means a lot because it means longevity for them, because they don't have connection to the earth. So they have to live off stored energy. You know what I mean? So they have instituted a value system, Ed, that's their value system, on us humans, and they're running the economy on that. And they are killing us off so that we don't institute our own system of values. So you see how that's working, Ed. I'm just giving you one example, Ed, of values, of value and worth, which is what Pluto is all about. And now, Ed, because we have awareness, we know what what's happening and what our influences are. So human beings have begun to awaken, and this exactly was what was happening in 1776 when Pluto was in this same part of the sky. This is when the settlers in America, Ed, they were not willing to value the pound and the crown as they had valued before. They said that we don't need that anymore. We've got our own our own thing going here. We're in a different land. We've got our own system here. We want to live by this. So you see, Ed, imagine that, Ed, on a personal level, and imagine that even on a global level. So that's Ed, the stuff that's happening. That's one of the things, Ed, happening with right now. Started 2nd September, and this, Ed, is a leverage, or it's the springing point, Ed. And from here on, things are going to, the manifestation of what happens in the collective unconscious as well as the personal unconscious will be manifesting.